Hello, everyone, and welcome to this League One preview show for Match Day 2 here on the Debt Network. My name is Sam, and I am joined by my preview show host, Callum. Good afternoon, Callum.
Afternoon, or good evening, or good morning, whenever it is that you're listening. We're recording this on an afternoon. So, yeah, I'm good. How are you, Sam?
Yes, all good. It's nice to see some nice weather, although I'm getting a bit fed up of the sun now. It's more of that meme
We've got cloud here in Lincoln, so
yeah,
don't complain.
I would rather have it. My room is absolutely melting. I should probably turn the fan off before there is noise. So on today's preview show, the preview shows are more of a statistical look at the games ahead of the weekend, but due to it only being one match day in, there's not going to be as many statistics as we would like. So the way the preview shows usually work is we pick 6 games, usually from the week ahead, and we preview roughly 6 in great detail, with the other 6 just giving predictions on. We try and vary the teams up every week, so we're not actually talking about the same teams every single week. Otherwise, we literally would end up talking about Birmingham, Huddersfield, and bigger teams every single week. So we're trying to give everyone a looking. So the 6 games, we've gone for 5 games this week. And these are Bolton versus Wrexham. I think that's a pretty obvious one. Cambridge versus Crawley, Blackpool versus Stockport, Rotherham United versus Bristol Rovers, and Lincoln City versus Barnsley. So before we start at all, we're going to take a very quick look at the Carabao Cup action from the week, which Callum is absolutely delighted by. The teams that have gone through from League One are Leyton Orient, Blackpool, Birmingham, Crawley Town, Huddersfield, Wycombe Wanderers, Rotherham United, Barnsley, Shrewsbury, and Bolton. With the teams going out, Wrexham, Peterborough, Stevenage, Northampton, Lincoln, Charlton, Bristol Rovers, Burton, Stockport, Cambridge, Wigan, Mansfield, Exeter, and Reading. So roughly half and half have gone in and out. So we do have some questions based on the Carabao Cup, which is a nice discussion point. So we can kind of have 2 in 1 here. So in terms of the Carabao Cup, Callum, do you think the Carabao Cup should be played before the season, later on in the season, or do you think we should just get rid of it altogether?
No, I like it. I like it. I think it's kind of like, it's always to me been the warm up to the FA Cup. Like the FA Cup's obviously the one that everyone wants to win. But if you were just playing league games at this point in the season, it'd be a bit boring. So it's nice to have, even though it's not really jeopardy at this point. No one's season is measured on the success that they have or don't have in the Carabao Cup. But maybe have it 1 or 2 weeks later into the season. It feels weird that some teams' tournaments are already over. Like, a lot of these teams, there's only 4 trophies, isn't there, for League One teams to battle for the league, and then 3 cups. It feels weird that already a quarter of the season competitively already is over. But no, I like having this kind of jeopardy earlier on, even though it doesn't seem to be going too well in terms of fans or how much people care about it.
Yeah, so that was kind of leading on to the next question, which we'll get onto in a minute. In terms of, because you've obviously got the EFL trophy as well. And, well, they've all got the bloody same name now. You've got EFL Cup, EFL trophy. In terms of the Bristol Street Motors trophy, do you think we should go down like a Scottish route in terms of that is your pre-season? Your pre-season is a cup competition. And then we go into the league season and maybe push the Carabao Cup, I don't know, to the first week in September rather than the first week of August.
I've never really thought of it like that, to be honest. I'm not entirely familiar with what they're doing in Scotland, but in terms of having it as a pre-season thing, I think that'd just lead to more managers complaining, just being like, oh, you're forcing us to play competitive football and we're not even through pre-season. Are you asking for our players to get injured? And I mean, I don't follow Scottish football too closely, but I don't hear managers really complaining about it up there as much. But we know what English managers are like, and as soon as they have a reason to complain about injuries and whatnot, they'll do it. So I don't know. I think you kind of have to leave it as is. I know it gets confusing, but I mean, a lot of the time football's football, and we just like watching it, even if it results in you losing to League Two opposition.
So are you actually bothered by being out the cup competition as a Lincoln fan who's now gone out? In terms of, would that extra revenue have helped you this season, do you think? Because I don't actually know how much we get for the competition. But
obviously, it's not the FA Cup, is it? I imagine it's not. But I think the thing is with Lincoln, we saw it last year. Lincoln, obviously, there's this famous clip that obviously, because the other work that I do, I've been listening to that clip of us beating Sheffield United on penalties non-stop this week, and that brings back great memories. Nothing will ever stop us from the time that we beat Sheffield United. Okay, they were abysmal last year, but a Premier League side, and then hosting European Conference League winners in West Ham. Nothing's ever gonna stop us. So I think it's a great opportunity, and it is sad to see, like the FA Cup we see with other teams. It's sad to see a lot of teams just not take it seriously. I mean, Lincoln made 8 changes, and then by the 45th minute, by half time, 2 of those players had been substituted off. So, we've already got through 21 players, which is why I say maybe 1 or 2 weeks later in the season, and teams might take it a bit more seriously. I think it's summed up by one comment I saw on social media, just saying, now that our final pre-season game is out of the way, talking about last night's, talking about Tuesday night's fixture, sorry. So, yeah, it's a mix of both, isn't it? I see why managers rotate, but, there is still some great memories to be had from it. But like I say, it did save Mark Kennedy his job last. So I doubt a run in any EFL trophy EFL Cup will save any manager their job. It's the league, isn't it? That matters.
Yeah, I'm on board with you. I think a couple of weeks later in the season, you might see a couple of more teams take it a bit more seriously with putting stronger teams out. It's just that thing, isn't it, of they've played one high-intensity match for the first time in 3 or 4 months. The risk of injury then than playing another high-intensity match is a lot higher. So maybe having it a couple of weeks later is probably better.
I get that the draws need to be made in advance and whatnot, but it's so weird seeing the draw for this made before like half the teams have even started pre-season as well.
Yeah,
that's what throws me. It's like, what do you mean you're already doing cup draws?
Yeah, what I do like what they've done, I don't know if they did it last year, mainly because we were out in the first round, I didn't pay attention, is that they're still regionalised for the second round, so it's south and northern. I quite like that for just travel in general. So all the Premier League teams are now obviously in it, so I'm hoping nice big Premier League juicy tie away. Don't care who it is in the Premier League, anyone southern. As long as it's not bloody Plymouth, who might lose tonight, being Wayne Rooney. But that's another topic. So the final question on the Carabao Cup before we get cracking into some of the league games is, with attendances being really low for the Carabao Cup, what can clubs do to get more fans through the gates for these games?
I'll let you have your words on this first.
Well, I have quite a strong opinion on the Sky Sports deal. So the rumour going round, I don't know how true this is, there is a rumour going round, I use the word rumour very strongly, is that clubs get roughly £6,000 a week for this Sky Sports deal, which I worked out roughly equates to about 200 tickets of an Orient Category A adult game. At the weekend, and this involves all football, not just the Cup, Orient had an attendance of roughly 7,400 people. Last year's game against Bolton in January, bearing in mind this is an opening day of the season, and we do it on ticket sales rather than people in the door. So if you buy the ticket and don't turn up, you're included in the attendance. That's a deficit of 1,200 people that have decided not to come this year in terms of Orient fans, because Bolton sold out their relegation on both occasions. Whether that's due to ticket pricing or this Sky Sports deal, that's one problem. The second problem for the Carabao Cup is they showed every game live last night, which is great if you live, like me, for example, lived about 2 hours away from Leyton. It's like, I can stay at home and watch it. But the club didn't help themselves by charging £15 an adult. Yes, they charge it, I think, some kids for £1. Why not do adult tickets, I don't know, for £5, kids for £1? You get 4,000 people through the door, which sells out your 2 stands that you've actually opened. Rather than 2,000, you've probably ended up making a lot more money because you've then sold more food. People pop into the store and buy a hat for whatever reason. So there's that. And then leading on to my big argument with the Sky Sports app, it's crap. You can't watch it on a PC. You download the Sky Sports app. You click on the Leyton Orient game, as I did last night. You click watch live. It takes you to the home screen of Sky Sports. And then you find out, you watch the video on their website. You then find out you can't actually watch through the Sky Sports app on your computer. So then you have to get another device, a phone, a tablet. So you've got to have another device with you, then download the Sky Sports app, sign in, scroll all the way to the right to find your game, click on your game, and then you can watch it. To be fair, they had commentators on near enough every game, which was good. The quality was okay. So once you've got the game, it's fine. But why can't I watch it on a PC? Why do I have to have another device with me to watch it on a phone or a tablet? And the only way I can watch it on my TV is you've probably got Sky Glass or something. So my TV, literally right behind me, doesn't have the Sky Sports app. So I either have to watch it on my phone or I have to go and buy a tablet. I just don't agree. Like if you're an elderly person, for example, you're not going to have probably a Sky Glass, Sky Q. You're not going to have a God's name clue what that is. Most of them probably don't have iPhones. So what are they supposed to do? I just think they could have made this so much easier. You click the Sky Sports Plus channel, it lists all the games out. You click what one you want. Jobs are good. And that's what I think.
Yeah, I think it's obviously we're 2 games into this Sky Sports thing, so I think there's still a lot of, I don't want to say workplace testing. It's like in gaming, isn't it? It's like no matter how much testing you go through, there's still plenty of stuff that needs to be ironed out and whatnot. And I think there is still an element of we've got to wait and see how it develops the whole season. But this is Sky, right? If this was Premier League coverage, you have to ask yourself, would there be this level of errors first time? I mean, I can't remember when Sky first started doing Premier League football commentary and whatnot, but I don't think there was this level of, oh, well, we cocked that one up. Sorry, boys, we messed up there. I do think it's interesting. I think I don't get how it's very hard, just purely from a technical point of view, to find a good way to show what's 92 divided by 2, 46 games of football. It's very hard. Well, it's not even 92, isn't it? It's 72, and but it's still 36 games of football, or whatever the number is. It's a lot of games of football, and I get that it's difficult to do that, right? But that there is sometimes just no excuse. Like you miss the goal.
Yeah, I did.
You missed. I mean, that's partly Leyton Orient's fault for scoring. So, but anyway, but then also like we was like the Lincoln game at the weekend. I don't obviously watch it because I'm working during the games and whatnot. But there were reports that the game just stopped working. Yeah. You missed the final 5 minutes of the game because it was on a timer. And you're just like, well, are you trying to automate this full process? Because at the end of the day, we know that football is a human game. It's nothing. Obviously, we talk about semi-automated offsides and all this stuff that is coming in, and great. That's a separate conversation. But the thing that makes football so amazing is that it's a human game. So stop trying to automate it. Stop trying to put live games on a timer and take a game off when it's still got added time. Do you know what I mean? You can't do that. So I think it's with this guy spot. I think I don't want to be. I'm never too harsh. I like sitting on the fence and whatnot. So I think we still got to wait for it to play out and see how it runs its course. But there needs to be improvement and quick just don't make a hash of it. And in terms of like just fans, I mean that like I said, football's a human game. Yeah. You can't inspire someone who, like, no matter how much football you watch, you don't inspire someone sat on the couch, do you? You inspire, like, you don't hear stories of like Lionel Messi, the next Messi, who got inspired sat on his couch in the middle of Stoke-on-Trent, do you? you hear stories of Lionel Messi being inspired by being on the terrace. The next Michael Schumacher got inspired by Formula One by being at the racetrack, not by playing Formula One 2024. Do you know what I mean? That's the difference, and we're losing. Well, we're at risk of losing what makes the EFL, especially the Premier League's gone. Who cares about that? But what made the EFL so special is to use a biking analogy, bikes and superbike, you get so close. Like you see the Isle of Man TT, for example, you get so close to those bikes, but you don't get as close to those F1 cars. It effectively sort of is my analogy. With EFL football, you feel so much closer to it than you do with Premier League football, and that's what makes it special. And we're kind of at risk of losing that, I feel like, at the minute.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think I think a lot of ticket prices this year for a lot of League One clubs were shocking to a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's the doom and gloom out of the way of the Carabao Cup. And
anyway, let's be happy.
Yeah, Callum's depression of being out of it. So, speaking of another topic Callum loves to talk about, in our first preview match, it's Callum's favourite manager, Steve Evans' Rotherham, versus Bristol Rovers, who have had gone under the radar summer. Is it fair to say?
Ish. Again, I just think like in the natural world of football, you have teams that are in the spotlight and teams that aren't in the spotlight. And I love you, Bristol Rovers. I don't, but you just never. There's not. I hate this phrase I hate this nickname that I've got now. But Callum Aura Davis. There's not an aura of, oh, I'm interested to see what Bristol Rovers doing. No one except Bristol Rovers fans are interested to see what they do, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. I get you.
So that's what I'll say. But no, Rotherham, disappointing opening day, wasn't it, really, for them? And then Steve Evans. I mean, we all know League One accounts sometimes don't help themselves with literally putting things into AI and seeing what batshit rumour they can come up with. But there's already a few murmurings of Steve Evans not being the most liked man in Rotherham. I'll take them with a grain of salt because I'm sure they're a bit attention grabbing, but losing 1-0 to Exeter City, and then I think there was pictures of him refusing to shake the opposition manager's hand and whatnot. So yeah, not great for Rotherham at the minute, but it's only match week 2, so that might quickly change.
Yeah, Bristol Rovers obviously got off to a 1-0 winning start, which you can't, to be honest, you can't ask for much more, can you, than winning your opening game of the season. It doesn't matter how you win them types of games, as long as you win. I still think they probably need another striker through the building. I don't think as good as I think Promise Omachair's potential is. He didn't hit the heights I think everyone expected at Fleetwood. They obviously lost Anthony Evans, but Isaac Hutchinson's a decent replacement. So they've got a lot of new players, Bristol Rovers, that they need time to bed in. Matt Taylor, I think, is a very good manager for this level. And if he does get his style imprinted on this Bristol Rovers team, they could be a team that have a few shock results, I think, this season. And the average age of their squad has come down massively. So it's a bit of experience versus experience, isn't it, in this game with Rotherham versus Bristol Rovers? Two teams that have completely overhauled their squads. So what do you think? How do you see this game going?
The way I look at some of these games is, if this game was at the end of the season, who would we expect to win? I don't want to say who would we expect to win, but would this be a game that almost comes back to bite them? You look at the previous game, Bristol Rovers, we expect them to be a mid-table side, and Northampton, they were struggling. So that 1-0 win for Bristol was a good, solid result. Obviously, for Rotherham, it wasn't the best, and that might be a result if they're at the sharp end of the table that costs them. So I don't know. I think the home advantage will probably play into Rotherham's hand. I do think they'll go for I'll go with a 2-0 win to Rotherham. But I'm not 100% confident on that one. I do think that Bristol Rovers might sprinkle in a surprise.
Do you reckon Steve Evans will shake the Bristol Rovers manager Matt Taylor's hand at the end of the game if they lose?
If they win, yes. If they lose, he'll probably just throw a steak pie in his face or something. I don't know.
We have a thing on this preview podcast. If it's called Steve Evans Watch. So whenever they lose, we will tune into his post-match press conference just to see. And we have a tally of what he blames at the end of the game. So we're expecting referees to be very high on the agenda, or we didn't get this, we didn't get that. So
the weather will probably be on there at some point.
Yeah, it's too hot. The pitch is too dry.
Yes.
So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in this game, purely because I think Bristol Rovers obviously got off to a better start. And if their rumours are true, then they might want to get Evans out quicker. So I'm going to go with a nice 1-1 draw And yeah, I think they're just going to be a very difficult team to beat this year, Bristol Rovers. I think they're very well organised. They've got a couple of flair players in their team, and I quite like the balance of it. While they don't possess as much quality as Rotherham, and we know what Steve Evans is like, getting every ounce of ability out of these players, but these are different players to the ones he had at Stevenage. That makes sense. They're a bit more high profile, so they may not take his word as much as the Stevenage players did, for example, because the players he's got are much better League One players than them. No offense to the Stevenage players, than them Stevenage players were. So the Stevenage players are more likely to listen to him, where the Rotherham players are probably like, well, we know what we're doing at this level. We know where we should be, and he's contradicting everything. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with that. So the second game we're going to look at is Bolton Wanderers versus Wrexham. I'd probably say the biggest game this weekend in terms of people actually probably going to be watching it. Bolton obviously won their game last week 2-1, and Wrexham also got off to a winning start. But if you look at the Wrexham team from last week, a lot of their new signings didn't play either, and then they played them yesterday, especially defensively. Dan Scarr, Lewis Brunt, all played. Seb Raven as well, Rathbone. They've done some excellent late summer recruitment as well, Wrexham, and it could be quite a tasty affair.
It could be. Wrexham already bringing the drama, aren't they? 3-2 against Wycombe Wanderers. You can imagine the cinematic Hollywood cameras there. Be, oh, are they gonna do it? Whatever. Bolton versus Wrexham, though. Bolton, a side that we expect to almost be all the time. I always get nostalgic about Bolton because I always remember their stadium in FIFA 12 or something being so much bigger than it actually is. And it was always raining whenever you played Bolton on FIFA for some reason. So, they're a juggernaut, aren't they, really, in this league? Bolton, you expect to be higher up in the EFL, although you can say that about a lot of teams now, can't you? Bolton, Wrexham. I can just see this game being one that Bolton look to control, look to make very boring. I think Bolton need to take a leaf out of the Portsmouth playbook, where we said that you win this league by being really, really boring at home and playing football away from home. I think that was their philosophy last year, wasn't it? Just getting the job done at home, that you don't care about how it gets done, just get the job done. And we kind of saw that. Game week 1, beating Leyton Orient 2-1. Sorry, I had to bring that up. You bullied me earlier about Harrogate. To be fair, I'd rather lose to Bolton than Harrogate. But anyway, I can see Bolton just being boring and just doing a clinical 2-0 win, I think, personally.
Okay. Yeah, I think Bolton I think this is going to be a game where we kind of see where Wrexham are at their stage in this very, very early League One season. If they go there and beat Bolton at Bolton, that is a proper statement of intent, going to one of the league's favourites. And they may win through a penalty and not control the game at all. I can't see that happening because Bolton's game management is actually quite good. I think this is going to be the battle of the midfields in overall. I think they've both extremely strong in the middle of midfield. You've got Wrexham's midfield you've got George Dobson. You've got the man that everybody hates in James McLean playing left wing back. You've got Elliot Lee. You've got Andy Cannon. You've got George Evans. You've got Ollie Rathbone. And I think there's one other I probably missed. But that midfield, in terms of depth, and George Evans, I don't know if I've said him, is extremely strong. And then on the flip side, you've got Bolton's, who've got Aaron Morley, George Thomason, Alan Sheehan, Kyle Dempsey, Clady Lolos. Then you've got Cogley. You've got Osei Tutu. You've got the Hungarian left back they brought in. And they're two very, very good teams going forward. They could hurt each other if they're not on it defensively. And Bolton's defensive line was quite high against us, and we got in behind them doing lots of diagonal balls. But they both play sort of the same sort of system with midfield runners going up beyond the strikers. And we've got Jack Marriott, who we know at this level. If we're going to compare strikers, Jack Marriott is probably their Dion Charles in terms of the way they play, in terms of they are a natural goal scorer. They've got the experience of Stephen Fletcher, which was their Cameron Jerome from last year, who's now no longer there. But then you've still got players like McAtee and Bolton have just got so many. Victor Adeboyejo as well, and there's just so much attacking talent on display. I can't see then both teams not scoring in this game. I'm gonna go for a 3-2 Bolton victory. I think while Wrexham are still adapting to the league, I think Wrexham has still got to adapt to the league, and they did this when they were in League Two last year. They conceded a lot of goals at the start of the season, and then they adapted to the level. They've obviously been quite active in the summer, Wrexham, so lots of players have got time to bed in. Bolton have not really started many of their players that they brought in the summer, so they've kind of kept their squad kind of the same. So I'm expecting Bolton to win 3-2. So we've both got Bolton wins.
Wrexham will win then. There we go.
Yeah. So bearing in mind, I only got, I think it was 5 correct outcomes last week in more difficult match day 1, but I only got like 3 or 4 correct. We're off to a cracking start, and this is the as I tweeted out, the battle for the Dairy Milk Bar at the end of the season. Once again, I can't remember who. I think you won last year, didn't you?
Did I? I think I came back from like 10 points behind or some crap like that somehow.
Yeah, so obviously it started a lot earlier this year. So we're going to have a quick ad break now, and then when we come back, we'll look at the other 3 games we've picked, and then do our remaining predictions for the other games. Okay, and welcome back to the second half of this podcast. So the next game we're going to talk about has a question attached to it first. So we're going to answer the question first. It's Cambridge United versus Crawley Town, 2 teams that probably tip to be near the bottom end of the table. Both had contrasting fortunes through the first match week. Crawley winning both their games, one in the Cup against Swindon 4-2, as well as an impressive home victory against Blackpool 2-1. Cambridge United lost to Stockport 2-0, and then they lost in the Cup. No, not badly, but to QPR, who are the league above. So the question is, if Crawley Town go and beat Cambridge United this weekend, is Gary Monk already under pressure?
Do you know what? I put it in the chat, didn't I? As soon as it looked like Crawley were gonna win when they went 2-0 up. I think I said, "Sorry, Crawley Town." Like, does Scott Lindsay know something about that club? I imagine he knows a lot about that club that we don't know. But like, they just seem to, like, a 2-1 win against Blackpool is a good result for like any side. Like even your Birminghams and your Boltons that you expect to be up there. Blackpool, we'll get there eventually. Blackpool, they're a good side. They were fighting for playoffs last year. So yeah, I wouldn't put it beyond Gary Monk to be under pressure. I mean, we saw just in the Championship that it's very cutthroat, isn't it? With manager sackings already this year. Lose one game and you're gone. So I don't want to say it'd be under pressure because I feel like it's too early in the season, but a few bells, I'm not going to say alarm bells, but a few warning bells will begin to be rung if this doesn't go Cambridge's way, I think. Yeah,
because I'm just looking at Cambridge's fixtures. Obviously, I know we've only played, so they're playing Crawley in their second game, so they've played 2 newly promoted teams. They've then got Blackpool, Bristol Rovers, Bolton, Mansfield. So they've played 3 of the 4 promoted teams by match week 6. I don't think they'll get anything against Bolton. I don't think they'll get anything against Blackpool. And then it's the Bristol Rovers game. If they can get 3 points against Bristol Rovers, it probably keeps his job for another couple of match weeks. But one thing I will say about Cambridge is they're a very well-run football club, and they don't just sack managers off by the off chance. Like they gave Mark Bonner a very long, and he kept them. The faith was rewarded by keeping them up. They then started really well again last season, but fell away, and then eventually Mark Bonner lost his job. So they are fair with their managers, and they give him time. They've let Gary Monk bring in the players he wants as well, so there's no excuse for Gary Monk to say, "Oh, I wasn't backed in the transfer market." He's got the players he wants. He's got Shane Lavery, he's got Kellen Watts, Corey Smith. They are good League One footballers. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They are good League One footballers. But on the flip side, you've got Crawley Town, a team who everyone has once again written off, including us, putting in an excellent performance at home to Blackpool. Their away form, as we'll get onto it in a bit, is extremely questionable, as it was last season. And the way Scott Lindsay's got them, it looks like a team that's been together for a couple of years already. The way they transition in attack, the confidence their players have to just go and play. It's like Scott Lindsay just takes the reins off them. And as long as they're organised out of possession, which they are, because the goal that Blackpool scored against Crawley was a mistake from the goalkeeper taking too long on the ball. And them sort of things, they can't happen. But then Jojo Wollacott had a decent game against Swindon last night. So goalkeepers, as we know, are a very tricky position. You make a mistake, it usually ends in a goal. But it's gone extremely under the... Well, we all criticise Crawley's transfer business, especially early in the window, losing 9 of your 11 starters from the playoff final. But since that Preston has come back to Crawley for a second as chairman again, some of the signing of Panchute Kamara, if you keep him fit, in my opinion, he's one of the best midfielders in League One. If you go off transfer market, Josh Flint's value is incredibly high. It's about €400,000. And then they've recruited cleverly with people like Tobias Malarkey, Junior Kutera, Cameron Bragg. And then he's got Hepburn Murphy, I believe he's managed before at Swindon. So he's brought players to just fill roles again. And he's just a bit of a genius, I find, Scott Lindsay. He just seems to... He's a bit like a better football manager than Steve Evans and a better bloke, quite frankly. Gets every ounce of the players he's got. Is tactically very good. And his teams play really entertaining football as well.
I was just looking because that point where I stumbled upon was it Ryan? Is it Ryan in Preston? Sorry, and it made me think about, because obviously one of the reasons that's been pointed out on social media is his form towards the end of last season, right, and whatnot. And if I've just done the thinking correctly, so if you're watching on YouTube, you'll have seen me just frantically scrolling with my eyes elsewhere. But he's only won twice at Cambridge, right? He joined at the start of March. I think it was the 3rd of March. It was announced. He's only won twice, which was Barnsley away, which I'm pretty sure you can chop up as a fluke result, and then Wigan at home, which, fair enough, whatever. But then he's not won. He didn't win in the final 6 games of that season. He's not won in the first game this season. I forget how they went on in the cup. Did they lose in the cup as well?
Cambridge lost in the cup 2-1, yeah.
So, he's only won twice since March the 3rd or March the 4th when he was appointed or whatnot, which is sackable form. I'm not gonna. That is sackable form. So, yeah, he's got tops 10 match days to get his form together, and even that's being generous, I think. So, yeah, my opinion has now changed now that I've become more educated on the matter. He's got to sort his shit out, else he's fucking chop wood.
So I've gone for a 3-1 Crawley victory in this one. I just think Crawley's attacking flair and organisation is going to be too much for a depleted, in confidence Cambridge side.
I think this might be a little bit boring, this game. I don't think it's not going to be a hugely exciting one. I'll go with 1-0 Crawley, I think. Yeah. I don't think it's going to be exciting. Like, going back to my old analogies, where can I imagine this game on the ITV package highlights? Do they still do them this season with the Sky deal? I'm not sure. But where do I imagine it? And I imagine it being towards the end, and just the reporter couldn't give less of a shit. So there we go.
So moving on to our 4th game is Blackpool, who we've just mentioned, lost to Crawley Town away from home last week, against Stockport County, who rested 10 first-team players. They have apparently got 12 first-team players that are actually fit at the moment. They made 10 changes to their team last night against Blackburn. They did get thumped 6-1, which I don't think surprises anyone making 10 changes to your team. Obviously had an extremely impressive result last week, Stockport. You can't ask for a promoted side. Winning your first game is all you can ask. But the question we got on this game is, what do you think of Blackpool's new striker, Dom Ballard? I don't know if you know anything about him.
I had a quick Google. It's not a name that I was too familiar with. And there's a certain other striker that I think I would much rather have at my club, and I'm saying no more. Please come home, Joe Taylor. But I think he looks promising. I think he got 10 games and 3 goals at was it Blackpool last season? Not
I think he was at
Blackpool. Reading, sorry, last season. But we all know the situation around there. He's seemingly very highly rated at Southampton, and he lived in Greece for the start of his life, apparently, according to Wikipedia. So, living the dream life. He looks a promising player. We see a lot of these young strikers in League One. Whether he's the next Harry Kane or whatnot, I'm not entirely sure. But he looks like it might be a tidy little number. So yeah, decent sign if you can get. Well, I suppose it's the same with all strikers. If you can get them firing, you can get them firing, can't you?
Yeah, when I watched some clips of him when he was at Reading, he's a really tidy finisher in and around the box. He's a bit like a more mobile Jordan Rhodes. I think is the best way I can explain him.
He has legs.
Yeah, they have. Legs, yeah. And obviously compared to their other strikers, they've got Ashley Fletcher, who somehow managed to score a goal last week, albeit he closed down a goalkeeper, hit his arse and went in. It's still a goal and he's off the mark, which can only be good for his confidence. They've got Jake Beasley, who played 19 minutes last week. They've got Carl Joseph, who they initially partnered with Jordan Rhodes before they were both substituted in around the 70th minute mark. Now, Jordan Rhodes is an interesting one because we always know he scores goals. That's what Jordan Rhodes does at this level. But towards the end of last season, I don't believe he had a very good end to the season. In fact, it was a pretty poor end to the season. And I think Blackpool have just got to find that right combination of strike partners, because I have no doubt that they can score goals with people like CJ Hamilton, Lee Evans, Sonny Carey all supplying the front two. But they've got to get that combination right. I think Ashley Fletcher should start, because even though Ashley Fletcher is not a natural goal scorer, he does press well, but he can't really hold the ball up. So you probably then have to partner him with someone like a Don Ballard or a Jordan Rhodes. Let Ashley Fletcher do your running and let them take the chances. For Stockport, on the other hand, I think I've gone on record about how good I think their transfer business has been so far this summer. Louis Barry arguably got goal of the season, ticked off in match week 1 with his sublime chip. But the big problem is a very big injury list for Stockport, like a huge injury list. Blackpool's home record was pretty good last year. They picked up 48 points at home last season and only 25 away. Stockport obviously League 2 champions, so they've still got that momentum behind them. So I've gone for a 1-1 draw in this game. I think that the quality of Stockport's attack is still very strong, regardless of injuries. You've still got Odin Bailey, you've still got Jaden Fevrier, you've still got Kyle Wootton. So they should have enough firepower to score at least one. And then defensively, they may be a little bit frail just with the number of injuries. They may tire. I think Stockport will lead for a vast majority of this game, and then Blackpool will score late on.
I don't know. I'm still like, it's that step up that I'm like, okay, you can get one win. Anyone can get one win in match week 1. Like anyone can win in the cup. Can you continue that? I don't know, that level of performance. Blackpool, obviously, still I don't want to say they're a playoff chasing side. They always tend to end up being there, but you expect them to be up there, and I don't expect that of Stockport this season. So I can see a 2-1 win to Blackpool here.
Okay.
Is it being tight? I can see it being tight, and I can see Stockport being the the better team. I can see Stockport winning on XG, but whether they'll have the League 1 level clinicality to snatch all 3 points, I'm unconvinced of yet. Happy to be proved wrong though.
Okay. So you've gone for a 2-1, and I have gone for a 1-1. So the final deep dive, in inverted commas, game is Lincoln City versus Barnsley. And Callum, I'm going to give you free roam.
This one, it's interesting because I said this one should be a game that we look at because it's what I expect, where I expect both of these teams to be around the same area. A lot of people are saying Barnsley have had a tough summer, and they're not looking too great at the moment, I don't think. Obviously, Lincoln had an okay summer and looked great against Burton. A bit shit in the cup, but it's the cup, so who really cares that much? It's just an interesting game, I think. Lincoln are a side that are still very much in transition. They're learning to play with this new Scabala system that he brought in towards the end of last season with the two up front. But the issue is, despite having, I think we've got 6 potentially, obviously Walker out injured, but we've got 6 first-team strikers. All of them wouldn't look out of place, but the only one that's, let's say none of them would look out of place, it's because they're all average. Mm-hmm. Lincoln don't have that, like you say with other teams, they don't have that born striker. They don't have that like Dion Charles figure. They don't have anything like that at all. So I think Lincoln's worry is goal scoring, right? And Barnsley, again, their worry is just, you conceding 2 to Mansfield Town at home. No offence to you, Barnsley, but you probably shouldn't be doing that if you've got ambitions of where you want to be. I'll mention it again, and I don't know if it'll actually happen, but Lincoln need to get that Joe Taylor signature. I'm more confident day by day that it'll happen because Luton seemingly don't want to play him. They put him on the bench for their opening game. So, and then didn't bring him on. I think it was pointed out in our chat, they didn't bring him on and they were 2-1 down, 3-1 down, and then was it 4-1 down eventually? So it's a tough game. It's difficult to predict where these teams will end up, but I think the reason I say we should look at it is because if this was match week 30, these teams should be in the same area on that periphery of the playoffs. And going into it as a Lincoln City fan, I'm optimistic. I think Lincoln, with that home advantage, proper first home game, can do well. No injury concerns at the minute, really, for Lincoln that you'd be worried about. Obviously, at the return of Lewis Monsma as well last night, which was hallelujah. So I'll go with a Lincoln 2. We'll go 3-1 win. I think we'll go with a 3-1 win. Because I think Lincoln do have goals in them, but
very confident.
You don't know where they're coming from. It is my point. So yeah, we'll go 3-1. I really don't think Barnsley are cooking on all cylinders yet.
Confident. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. I think after watching, I watched the first 75 odd minutes at Mansfield Barnsley. And as soon as Barnsley went 2-0 down, I like what Darryl Clark did. He realised it wasn't working and immediately made a substitution. And after he made that substitution and Barnsley went to a back 4, they were the dominant team against Mansfield and arguably should have got a point. If Darryl Clark continues with that back 4, I could probably see them getting a draw against Lincoln. My big concern with Lincoln is, I think what I mentioned in the preview show, you've lost Jensen, you've lost Mitchell, you've lost Sorensen, and you've lost Joe Taylor. You've lost near enough a spine of a team. And that is very difficult to find quick fixes for. Like, Derica is a solid League One left back, but he's not Sorensen. Wickers may well be as good as Jensen, but he isn't yet. The striker you've bought in, Rob Street, he's more like Ben House in terms of he's not a goal scorer. He's a really good presser.
Runner. We don't have the runner, do we, at all?
No. And then I don't think you've replaced that. You can tell me if I'm wrong. I don't think you've properly replaced Alex Mitchell yet either.
The only way I'd say is you've got Hamer. Hamer's come in. He's still, I think he was ill yesterday, but still managed to play the full 90. But he's come in, and then obviously you've got like Michael Scabala said on several occasions, it's like a new signing in Lewis Monsma, who I think I've said it. If he doesn't get injured, he is up there with the best centre backs in the league, and that's not a fan's perspective. He is a great centre back, and I think he can be up there. But again, it's whether they get injured. We're 2 signings. It looks like we're going to get I forget his name, with Ring, I think is his surname, that Lincoln have been heavily linked with today.
The Swedish geezer.
Yeah, the Swedish bloke. Look like we're going to get him. That'll be a left wing back, right wing back study. I think we're him and Joe Taylor off a very good side.
Yeah.
And
I think I would agree with you. If you got Joe Taylor, you'd be a lot better equipped. I think your biggest issue is Tyler Walker, isn't it? He's obviously taking up a large proportion, I suspect a large proportion of your wage budget.
Oh, 100%.
And he's played, what, 4 games?
About that, yeah.
Because his ankles are made of glass, unfortunately.
Well, the thing is, it's not the same injury. It's a different injury. It's a different injury. Apparently, Skabala's been very strong about this. It's a freak accident. Apparently, he was just like walking or something, and he just rolled his ankle. It's a completely different injury or something like that. So, foot knows what's going on there. But yeah, I could talk about Lincoln for ages, so probably best we move on and spam through some predictions of the games that no one cares about. Sorry, the games that we're not looking at today.
Yeah, so like I said at the start, this is the way it will work. There'll be 6 or so games where we talk more on statistics and in depth, and then the rest of the games we'll just give a prediction, a very quick overview and a prediction. We just think that works best. Every team then gets their week of we talk about you, so to speak. So let's start off the London derby at 12:30. Charlton versus Leyton Orient. Both teams suffered defeat. Charlton won on the opening day against Wigan Athletic, but then lost in the cup last night to Birmingham City. And Leyton Orient obviously suffered a defeat to Bolton Wanderers.
Charlton 3-0. Sorry.
Got me.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've not gone for that. I've gone for us to beat Charlton. Very bold. I've gone for us to win 2-1. I've looked at our two performances. We should have beaten Bolton. And we were very good last night. We looked really good going forward. And Charlton didn't have many shots against Wigan, and they literally had no shots last night. So I still think they're floundering in attacking areas at the moment. So I've gone for us just to beat Charlton because we look more of a team at the moment than Charlton. As Nathan
we are
Jones
a neutral podcast.
Yes. Next is Shrewsbury Town versus Peterborough United. Now, Shrewsbury actually scored 3 goals last night against League 2 opposition. One on a penalty shootout, and Paul Hurst decided to do fist pumps in front of the home crowd. And if that doesn't say what level Shrewsbury Town are currently at, then yeah. So, Callum, what's your prediction for Shrewsbury Town versus Peterborough United, who also suffered defeat on the opening day?
We'll go 0-2. Posh will get it done. I think.
Yeah,
the quality will shine through. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone for the same on that one. I think that one, I can't see anything other than a posh win. Northampton Town versus Exeter City. Probably Bristol Northampton Town obviously lost to Bristol Rovers on the opening day. A very late goal from Belingo. And Exeter City got an impressive 1-0 victory over Rotherham United. And
there's not too many important games, is there? But no. You feel like for Northampton Town, they kind of need to not rot. We saw it towards the end of last year. I remember pointing it out that at the end of last season, it was for Northampton Town to not get relegated this year, and they seem to be doing a good job of trying their best this year to get relegated. So I'll go 1-0 Exeter.
1-0 Exeter. I've gone for 2-1 to Exeter. Near enough for the same reasons. I don't think Northampton are as strong as... Well, Northampton probably got a stronger squad than they did last year, but the league is stronger, so it's a bit more difficult for them. So they're lower in the rankings. Huddersfield Town versus Stevenage. Obviously, Huddersfield Town got an impressive and pretty convincing 2-0 win against everyone's favourites, Peterborough United, in terms of a top 6 place. And Stevenage got a 1-0 victory against Shrewsbury Town, but did dominate most of the games in terms of XG, but then had an entertaining 4-3 cup tie against Norwich last night.
This is again that Huddersfield kind of need to win again, like you say, to make sure they continue on the right path to get back into the Championship. So I'll say I don't want to keep going 2-0 because I feel like I'm giving a lot of them today. So we'll go 3-1. Sod it, yeah.
Okay, I have gone for 2-0 into Huddersfield. Reading versus Wigan. So once upon a time, this was a Premier League fixture. We're now, because of various owner issues for both clubs, unfortunately, they are languishing in League One. Reading got a very impressive draw against Birmingham City. I've watched that penalty back about 16 times. I still don't think it was a penalty to Birmingham. The geezer's arms down by his side. and Wigan Athletic lost to Charlton Athletic.
I think I don't know. It's sad to see this as a League One fixture when it was obviously a Prem. 1 point. Wigan I don't know why. I've been very impressed with them. I don't know why. I just get the feeling they're going to do all right this season. And Reading, okay, they were all right, but Birmingham City, I think you touched on it on Monday. Birmingham battered them in that second half. It was one-way traffic. So Wigan, I can see them coming away with this with a 1-0 win away from home.
1-0 win. Okay.
They've gone for a lot of away wins, I think, today.
They have gone for a lot of away wins. I've gone for a 1-1 draw in this game. I think Wigan, it looks like Charlie Hughes is on his way out to Hull City. I think Reading, while they haven't signed anyone, their young squad has developed quite nicely. They've got a very talented young coach as well. And I think at home, Reading are relatively strong. So I've gone for a 1-1 draw. The penultimate game is Mansfield Town versus Burton Albion. Obviously, Burton have had a disappointing start to the complete overhaul with a defeat to Lincoln City 3-2 and then a demoralising defeat in the Cup in the week. Mansfield Town got a very impressive win against Barnsley, as we mentioned.
In Burton, you say it was a disappointing defeat, and obviously any defeat is disappointing, but they weren't bad. They were a very good side, and any team that plays them in the first 5-6 match days is very lucky to play them now, because they do have the hallmarks of a decent outfit. So I can see them getting their first point. I'll go with 1-1.
Oh, you've taken the words out of my mouth. I've also gone for a 1-1 draw in Mansfield.
I nearly said 3 points. I was so close to saying 3 points, but I was no, I'll play it safe and go 1-1.
And our final game is Wycombe Wanderers versus Birmingham City. Obviously, Wycombe Wanderers lost to Wrexham last week. They literally couldn't defend a cross to save their lives. And Birmingham City obviously got a point against Reading and then won with 10 men in the Cup.
I don't feel like we see this amount of away wins normally. But again, you'd think with the players that Birmingham got, and like you say, the form that they were shown towards the end of that game, this should be, I don't want to say easy pickings for Birmingham, but 2-0.
2-0. Okay, I've gone for 3-1 to Birmingham City. There's just difference in quality, isn't it? It should show up in this type of game.
At some point, yeah.
Yeah. So to summarise, we'll go through these very quickly. In Rotherham, Bristol Rovers, I have 1-1. Callum has 2-0. Bolton versus Wrexham, I have 3-2 to Bolton. Callum has 2-0 to Bolton. Cambridge versus Crawley, Callum has Crawley to win. I have Crawley to win. 3-1 and 1-0 respectively. Blackpool versus Stockport, Callum's got a 2-1 win to Blackpool, I've got 1-1. Lincoln versus Barnsley, Callum's got 3-1 to Lincoln, I've got 1-1. Charlton versus Orient, Callum's got 3-0 to Charlton, I've got 2-1 to Orient. Shrewsbury versus Posh, both got 2-0. Northampton Exeter, Callum's got 1-0, I've got 2-1 to Exeter. Huddersfield versus Stevenage, we've both got Huddersfield to win 3-1 and 2-0. Reading versus Wigan is Callum 1-0 to Wigan, and I've got 1-1. Mansfield versus Burton, we've both got a 1-0 draw. And Wycombe Birmingham is Callum 2-0 to Birmingham, and me 3-1 to Birmingham. So if you have enjoyed this preview podcast, please make sure you give us a rating on your preferred platform. Give us a like on YouTube. Let us know in the comments what your predictions are ahead of this match week 2. And look after yourself, take care, and we have been the League One Lowdown.